Hey, Lauren. Hi, Rebecca. I'm so happy to have you all here. Today, we're talking about picking best business model for you. What does scalability look like? What does profitability look like? I actually did an Instagram post on this, and I feel like I got a lot of really good questions. Hey, Netta. Um, and wanted to just dive deeper here and talk about this. I am on such a kick about talking about trade-offs so often recently because I just feel like if there's one thing that I feel like our space is getting so wrong right now, it's this, is that we're just constantly selling no trade-offs, no trade-offs, no trade-offs. And what I see is that that is like the biggest issue in our space is that people are selling no trade-offs but can't deliver on the results of no trade-offs because naturally everything has a fucking trade-off. Yeah, can we agree on that? Um, and so when it comes to like the business model conversation, I think it's the same thing. Like, how can we be realistic about like what are the good and bad pieces of each business model? How can we pick that intentionally? How can we lean into that intentionally? How can we build in a way that honors that? Because I think that that's when people are going to start trusting our industry more and actually seeing better results and actually um, liking their businesses again, where it's not like, I only want the business that, like insert thing, right? Lets me only work when I want to, is 100% passive, doesn't require marketing, has nothing hard, no one's ever upset with me, et cetera, et cetera. Like, of course you hate your business if you think that's what it's supposed to look like. And I just feel like it's just such a disservice because I think so many people are giving up great businesses because they think there's something wrong with it because of that. They're like, oh yeah, but if I was doing this right, this part wouldn't be a problem. Or if I was, a better business owner, if I knew more, or if I had some secret, then this wouldn't be a thing. And I think that's just not the case. Like most businesses have good parts, bad parts. They live together. You pick the one that has more good parts for you than bad parts, like it just is not that complicated in a sense, but I just feel like nobody's being honest about it, which I think is like anything else good in life, like relationships, friendships, jobs, parenting, you name it. You know what I mean? Like there are really good parts and there are really tough parts. That's kind of how it always works. I was thinking about it this morning because I saw this really beautiful video by someone on Instagram talking about her long distance best friend. And I was thinking like that's the perfect example of like benefits trade-offs kind of thing, of like the benefit of having a friendship that deep or that long is so great. And then the trade-off of like that pain of always having it be distant and always having to travel to connect and all of that kind of stuff is so real. But like that's life. Anytime we choose one thing, we're inherently not, getting something else. And so I just want to talk about that today. I'll stop now. We'll get off my soapbox, but I want to talk about that today through the lens of business models. Because I think if you pick your business model with eyes wide open about that, you are 100 times, real stat, more likely to like your fucking business, right? Where if you pick it because so-and-so said it's the perfect business model, like whatever, for moms with no trade-offs, or that's 100% passive or whatever, you're going to fucking hate it. And you feel like something's wrong all the time. And it's going to stop you from creating the success that you ultimately could have. Hey Morgana, thank you for being here. Anetta said no freaking secret, seriously. Obsessed with that honesty. So true. Good parts and bad parts. Thank you. Hey Lucy. Um, this is also so random, but I'm on a kick about this too. So I'll say this and then I promise we will get into the content. But if you haven't watched my Instagram stories yet today, read is maybe a better way to say it. I shared the most amazing like snippets from an article that I saw on TikTok this morning. Oh, it is so fantastic. And it's basically about this idea of like, especially as women, like really hating ourselves for our own needs. And so I want to say that with the context of this, like, one, you should go watch that. It is so fantastic. I feel like every single woman on this planet should read that. And two, I think that sometimes we're not getting our needs met enough as women, especially like sometimes the stuff that drives us to entrepreneurship is that like the job isn't meeting your needs to like also be a mom or to also take care of yourself and your body or whatever, right? And so then like we get into entrepreneurship, and what we try to do is construct something that's never hard or will never make us have a need. Does that make sense? So it's like we're feeling shame about our own like neediness of like, I need this much time to rest, or I need this much time with my baby, or I need this much downtime to feel okay, or whatever. And so then we try to set up a business model where we're like, I won't have any needs. It'll be perfect. It's passive. It does this, it does that. It's 100%, doesn't require me. I never have to stretch for marketing. And what we don't realize or remember is that actually like we're still going to have to like do massive work around acknowledging and loving our own needs. And like no perfect business model is going to take that away. So I feel like these are really intertwined and connected, because that like just stood out to me so much this morning of this conversation around like, yes, we want to acknowledge trade-offs because they're real and there's nothing we can do about them. Like, I wish I didn't have them either, you know? But also it makes sense that we're so triggered by them because we're like my needs are not getting met. And so like, I need this to figure out this business model so that I don't have to worry about that. Or like, I don't have needs, or so I don't feel so stressed about having to like advocate for my needs. And I think that, oh my God, I could go on and on about this. I'll stop. I promise we'll get into it. That is such a construct of like society and patriarchy right now. But I also just think we do it to each other so much in this industry. We're like, you know, all kind of like conditioned to see like the perfect in someone else, or even market with the perfect, you know? And then someone else feels like, well, how is she doing it? It seems like she doesn't have needs. It seems like she's totally fine. Why am I not? So after doing this for 8 years and working behind the scenes in all types of businesses at all different levels with all different humans and personality types, what I can tell you is no one has that level of figured outness at all. Everyone has pluses, minuses, ups and downs, unmet needs, triggers around needs, et cetera, et cetera. The right business model isn't going to fix all that. It's just not. And if we look to it too, again, we're going to feel frustrated and we're going to tap out before we get anywhere. If what you look to your business model to is how can I structure this in the way that serves me best while I choose the trade-offs that are most aligned to me, that's like the best we can do, kind of, you know. And I hate to say that because it's not sexy and it's not what anyone wants to hear, but I really think it's kind of like the best we can give ourselves. So Laura said, yeah, right? Such a thing. I feel like I could talk about this endlessly, but it's also like so alive for me as a mom of a very young, precocious little one. I like am constantly having to evaluate, like, is this a problem? Am I asking for my needs? Am I not? So I'm like obviously just really on this kick right now, but business model is where we're going with it. Okay, so what I want to do is kind of break down top like 4 business models in our industry. So we'll talk membership, we'll talk kind of like high ticket. So like we'll kind of lump one-on-one and maybe like high ticket mastermind in that. We'll talk course or product, and then we'll kind of talk hybrid, meaning like someone that probably has multiple pieces of that. Like maybe they have a course and a mastermind and some one-on-one or whatever. Is that 4? Yeah. Okay. So that's what we're going to dive into. So if you guys have questions that come up around it, obviously feel free, you know, to ask. I love this to be a two-way conversation. Oh, speaking of that, anyone that comments today is entered to win any of my products. So basically you can just, oh my God, look at what products we have, pick which one you want. So any comment today is just, even just a hi or whatever, it's just a thank you for being here. Okay, so let's get into it. So memberships. I think memberships are such an interesting business model because I think they seem the easiest and in some ways are the hardest to operate. So it's one of those things that works in theory, but definitely takes a lot of finessing in practice. Okay. And I'm not saying don't have one. Like I have multiple clients who have like really successful business models with memberships, but I am saying like, I think so often in our space, we see that as such like a quick win. Like we're like, oh, I could just have a membership where I just like dump a bunch of content and I just get people in there at a really low cost rate and it'll be super easy. LOL. A famous last word. Yeah, that is, I don't think memberships are the easiest. Yeah. I don't think so either. I think they work really, really well for like right person, right thing. Definitely not the easiest in my opinion. So, one of the biggest things with memberships, right, is that where you make the money off of memberships is actually not just volume, although yes, but it's retention. And I think most people don't think about this with memberships. It's like you're not probably going to sell enough, insert number, $99 things to make 100K month every month, right? What are you, like, are you selling 1,000 new memberships every month? No. I mean, someone could obviously, right? But like most people, that's not their model. So what you need is retention. Like you need people staying. And that can be really hard sometimes, especially if you have a membership alongside other offers. Meaning, like, I think a membership is easiest when it's your core offer, like, because you can do a lot to retain members. Like, you can really play with that a ton and be like, oh, okay, well, we're going to also give them this and we're going to give them this and we're going to study this. But when you want the membership to be an ascension to another program, ultimately it gets harder to retain because you're like, well, I can't give them this because I'd probably want to give them that there. And I can't give them this because I might want to give them this there. And then it gets wonky. I think membership definitely works the best when it's your core offer. You can really, really put your attention and focus there because you need to pay the most attention. I'm going to rhyme, the most attention to retention for that to be successful, right? Someone staying for a year plus, you know what I mean, is really going to be the thing. Also, the thing with memberships that's interesting that I think a lot of people don't think about is like they're much harder to run from a paid marketing perspective. Meaning, if you're like, oh, I want to have a membership and fill it by running ads, you would be surprised how tricky that gets from. Great. I know, I'm like, I feel like I should make that a thing. Yeah, everyone's saying memberships are not the easiest, totally. Um, I, so from a paid ads perspective, right? Like, if you don't know how long someone's going to retain and maybe like they're only spending $99 a month or something like that, paying for ads to maybe only get a $99 sale off that conversion, like it really doesn't make sense. It's like not super profitable because one, if you're not sending them to another model, which again, we're talking about how that's pretty hard to make work, you need to know they're going to pay a certain amount to make that ads cost worth it and to offset that without you putting yourself at massive risk where you're spending a ton on ads, hoping that X% retain, right? After doing it for quite a long time, maybe you could know, okay, on average, our retention rate is this. And so we're willing to kind of take that gamble, but it still would in fact be a gamble most of the time. So what a lot of people have done is like move to like only selling memberships on like a yearly basis or something like that, which is, a potential possibility there too. But I just say that to say like, there are going to be benefits and trade-offs and logistics of all of that. Morgana said we had 3 different businesses in parallel, 1 high ticket organic, 1 membership paid ads, and 1 membership with like TikTok to Facebook group. And the high ticket one literally made, oh, and the high ticket one literally made 100 times more for less work, right? Morgan, I would love if you shared just a bit more about that if you have a second. Like, did people in your lower ticket like memberships have really high expectations? Like you felt like you had to really deliver for that retention? Let me know if that's true. Obviously, share what you feel comfortable sharing, but like that's what I witness a lot is you're like, oh my God, what I have to give them to retain them is so insane kind of thing. And that is a love high ticket. Yeah. And so the thing I will say about memberships that I really do like is for a lot of my clients that are like manifesting generators in human design or have a certain personality type where they are very prolific, they want to create a lot of content, they're always wanting to like get stuff out. It can be really useful to have a membership because it's like instead of them launching 10 new courses that year because they're just like overflowing and they want to try something, put out something new and whatever, it's like a place to funnel it. And so it keeps their offer suite more simple, and they have a place to funnel kind of like all of that energy and content that they want to put out in the world. And I actually think it can be an incredibly valuable resource to a certain business owner and certain personality type, where like, yes, there are trade-offs, but it's so aligned to who they are and how they show up that the trade-offs are worth it. So that's something to think about too, right? Because I have a client I can think of that is a Manny Jen, very, very much like content creator, very prolific, and was just launching way too fucking much in her life, was getting so complicated because of it. And when we moved her to a membership model and she funnels stuff in there, her offer suite and her business has gotten much more simplified and successful because of it. So there are good pieces to that, right? But again, I would say it's like if that's your core thing, and if being able to lean into the retention piece is exciting for you. What obviously needs to happen there a bit is volume. But I think, again, if we're looking at like what creates profitability and scalability of a membership, hands down, bar none, it's retention. That's it. You know, the same person staying and paying you for a year plus is what's going to make that work. Morgana said we had to work just as hard for sales in the membership as we did for high ticket, to be honest. I have amazing retention rates in my high ticket programs and 101. Some people stay for years, but in membership, that was way more difficult because people really wanted direct relationship, not just content. Yeah, I so agree with that. I think very few people want just content in a membership, but it can be really hard to deliver on all they want. And I think, Morgana, thank you for being so transparent. Like, I think you just summed it up perfectly. And, you know, I think that this speaks a bit to like, it depends on what you're offering in the membership. Like some things might be very well tailored to that. And, you know, I'm trying to think of an example, like maybe templates, like a membership for templates or something like that, maybe very, very well tailored to something like that. But it really, if they're looking for that coaching relationship with you, it is very hard to deliver fully in a membership that retains. Yeah, Anetta said she finds it easier to sell out of a mastermind too. Hey, Amanda, good to see you. Okay, so we'll move on from that one, but if anyone has any other thoughts, let me know. Next, we'll talk about high ticket one-on-one. I feel like we're already getting into this, so this is perfect with like what Annette and Morgana were saying, but like, I think I can obviously speak to this a ton too. This is my business model. I think you really have to ask yourself, like, do you love holding space and going deep? You know, if you are not someone that truly loves that, I think this is a hard business model to have. I do. Because I think you have to like want to pour in that way a lot of the time. And you kind of have to get filled up by that. Like the reason this business model works so well for me is because I derive a lot of energy and fulfillment from that one-on-one work. And so I'm not just like depleting myself all day. I'm like also feeling like filled up by that. And so, yes, I'm giving a lot, but it feels symbiotic. Like it feels like an even energy exchange. And if you're someone who it does not feel like that, where you're like, yeah, I leave a one-on-one call and like, I'm just drained AF. Like I don't actually feel like I got lit up by it. I don't feel like I really wanted to be holding that much space, et cetera, et cetera. I think that this is a business model where you could get resentful quickly. So I think knowing the answer to that question of like, do I love holding space, right? Which like, oh, I don't think I said this, but the membership question I always ask people is like, do you just love creation? Do you love creating? Do you love pouring it out? Do you love being prolific? Like, is that your thing? Membership would be great for you. That's kind of why I was mentioning like my clients that are like the Manny Jens and that kind of thing. My answer to that is no. Like, I like, you know, creating like, you know, social media content and stuff like that. But in terms of like, would I love to create like a course or a training and like pour that out all the time? No. It's a no for me. Like a membership just doesn't make sense for me. It's not my personality. It's not how I'm built, you know? So I think it's good to know that. And so anyway, answer to, or question for high ticket and one-on-one that I would ask is like, do you love holding space and going deep, right? And that is, I just delivered a VIP day, all day of coaching, and I adored every second. Yeah, totally. Like I'm similar. I mean, obviously, like it can still be tiring in the sense that like you just gave a lot for a whole day. but like do like that. You know what I mean? Like it's so different to be like, oh, that like I'm kind of like I made a reel today about how like my brain doesn't function after coaching all day a little bit. And I think that's okay and normal. But did you like it is the thing, you know? Jess said memberships are the opposite of how my energy works. Yeah, and it's so helpful to know that. Lauren said, I love deep one-on-one work and coaching, but I don't have the capacity to be on calls all day and I don't have the niche for a partnership model. So rethinking. Yeah, such a good question, Lauren. Let's talk about that because the trade-off of high ticket and one-on-one is you have to be on calls. Like you have to be present or like, and I just delivered a VIP day. Like you have to be in delivery. Not necessarily even more, so to speak, because obviously if you're doing a membership and you're focused on retention and creation, like you're in delivery a lot, but you're just like on your own timeline in a way that you're not with something like high ticket, where you're like, I'm on a call at noon or I'm, delivering this VIP day on a Monday or whatever. Like there just is less flexibility there. Excuse me. And so if you don't have that flexibility, obviously that's why a lot of people move to a mastermind model because they can get closer to one-on-one, but have a little bit more spaciousness, so maybe they have like 8 people, 10 people in a mastermind versus 8 private one-on-one calls in a week. So I think that's an option, Lauren. And then also raising rates. Like that's the thing with one-on-one to a certain extent is like, if you know like how much time you have, then you can raise rates to kind of accommodate that, where you're maybe like, I can take 4 clients, you know what I mean? And so I need to price it at that to make that make sense. But obviously the trade-off is you have to be able to justify those higher rates with like the level of support or service or results there. So there are a lot of trade-offs to that too, right? Anetta said, I like having a group program with a VIP option hybrid. Love that. Lauren was on the Zoom with Ellie and Mastermind was calling too. Yeah, that totally makes sense for what you're saying there. And yeah, raising rates. Like, I think we're so used to hearing one-on-one isn't scalable that we forget that the definition of scalability is making more revenue without increasing your expenses, right? That's like scaling. It's like your revenue outpaces your expenses. And so the fastest way to scale one-on-one is to raise your rates because you're not taking on any additional expenses with that, but you're taking on more revenue. And so that's always something to think about. Like, I think that we forget that that's totally an option. And then maybe you only need 4 people to pay that rate. That gets easier, So it's not necessarily like a no if you don't have a ton of time. It's really just figuring out like what works for you there. But again, it is a trade-off where you're like, I have to be on this call on a Monday at 2, and I think again, you'd want to be getting enough out of those calls yourself that it feels worth it to do. I think that's it on one-on-one. If you guys have any other questions on that, let me know. But I do think that like higher rates is a real thing, but also again, being able to justify that with the level of support or service, So maybe you're just super responsive in between with messaging, or maybe you have like a layer of support in there that they can't really get in other programs or other things. It depends, but like I think there is often a way to do that. You're welcome. Love the hybrid and intimate group, great energy and extra one-on-one calls. Love that. So good. Okay, so next is course or product. So we'll talk about that. I feel like that's such like the thing of the moment with all of this MRR stuff going around, which if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, consider yourself lucky because I find it all over my Instagram. But it's basically master resale rights. So it's like someone made this course and then you buy the course and then you can resell the course. And so you've not even made the course. It's just like you're marketing the course and making money off that. But I feel like what a lot of those people do that are in the MRR world is like position it like it's the easiest thing in the world. Like you just have this course and you just go make some reels and sell it to a bunch of people and you're good. But the thing with a course or product is that volume is the only thing that scales that, like hands down, only thing that scales it. So the question I would ask there to kind of fall in line with the other pieces we were talking about is, do you love marketing? Because that is your full-time job if you are a course creator and that's your main business model. You are a full-time marketer. Where like for me, with a one-on-one business model, I would say I'm a full-time coach, part-time marketer. And it's like you're just a full-time marketer 100% of the time, right? Like you need volume to make that work. And for some people, they're exceptional at creating volume. Great. For most people, that is not their wheelhouse. Hi, y'all. She said, yes, always trade-offs. When you have a course, your full-time job is traffic, 100%. And your bead shops and writing conversion copy, yes. Marketing is full-time. Nope. I love mastermind because it's a hybrid of the things I love most. That's awesome. Yeah, to market that MRR course, exactly, Lauren. Like, I think that it sounds so sexy because you're like, oh my God, I have to just create something once. Or I guess if you do MRR, you don't even have to create it. And then I just go market it. But if you like really think about numbers, like this is why some of the MRR stuff pisses me off on Instagram, because they'll say like, oh, I'm making 30K this month or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I know data, let's math. If I looked at the reach that your last 5 reels have gotten, it is statistically impossible that you are making 30K off this whatever $200 course. So you're either paying for ads for that, which I don't know that they are, or you're doing major upsells within it and probably delivering on that in a different way. But there is no possible way with the amount of reach that I see on your account that that is what is generating 30K. So it's just very misleading, right? I'm assuming their volume marketing thing applies to affiliate marketing too. Yes, sorry, I had to like process this. I thought you were asking through a different lens, but yes, this would apply to affiliate marketing too, for sure. Oh, not it. It is monthly recurring revenue, but then the other thing it is called master resale, right? So it's basically like you buy a course from someone, and not only do you get to watch that course and like use that course, like you get to resell that course. So you have the master resale rights on it. And, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, but it is monthly recurring revenue too, which we like. Master resale rights we're a little bit like iffy about. Let's math, yes. I totally thought that at first too. Lucy said, I don't want to bash MRR because I don't ultimately know enough about it, but it feels funny to me that a bunch of people selling a course that someone else made. I don't know, something doesn't sit right. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Lucy. I think like, listen, we're allowed to sell products other people made. Like there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But I do feel like it's not a really sustainable business model in the way they're getting it positioned, because it's like, you're just selling that course to more people. And then you guys are all competing to sell the same course to people, but then you're acting like it's easy to get reach on that. You know, like at a certain point, that market's going to tap out. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Where like, if you have your own thing in your own niche, like you're creating some level of safety for yourself in that you're not like selling to your own competitors. You know what I mean? Yeah, zero thought leadership too, Jess, totally. So I feel like, you know, again, course is not bad. I just think that so few people, I think most people pick it because they think it's the easiest, just kind of like memberships where it's like, oh, that's easy. I just create some content, whatever. Or like course, oh, I just create this thing one time, then I just sell it. That sounds so easy. I'll do it. But it's not. And technically I can speak to this one quite a bit too, because Dateable is just course. Like we just have one course that we sell for, you know, when it's on sale, it's $1,000. When it's not, it's $1,250. We've sold a few done for you stuff there, but like our whole business is built on this one, you know, around the $1,000 a month mark course. And obviously it's both Jen and I's part-time thing. And so, you know, we're not scaling it the way we could if it was full-time, but that's the only thing that matters for that business. Like we have to be on top of marketing and reach. And we're often making trade-offs there. Like, do we want to spend money on ads? Do we want to spend time on marketing? It's not that simple. It really isn't. And it takes a lot. And we're lucky in Dateable in that we do a lot of strategic partnerships with people. And so we get a lot of traffic from that, but we've had to build those relationships over time. We've had to work those a lot in the back end. We've had to do a bunch of free stuff to kind of start to build those, et cetera, et cetera. Like it takes a tremendous amount of energy to build up pipelines that really keep your course full enough for a long enough period of time that you can create a sustainable business model on that. I have clients that do this. Like, I'm not saying it's not possible, but what I know about those clients is they would pick marketing over everything else. They're exceptional marketers. They fucking love it. They get so much joy and fulfillment out of it. And that fits them for that reason, you know, and that's why they're good at it. If you're picking it because you think course will be the easiest and then you're going to force yourself into marketing, you're always going to get screwed on that because it's so hard to be doing something full time that you're like forcing, you know? And then I said what you said, really landing being most of the time the coach and just some percent the marketer. Yes, totally. I also have 2 businesses and oof, yes, to be intentional with time. Yeah. It's such a thing. Sometimes I'm like, what was I thinking? And then most of the time I'm like, best decision ever. But occasionally I'm like, that was wild. But yeah, I think that I love having a course model in that business because it's my second business, if that makes sense. Like I fucking love our model at Dateable because I have a second business, you know? So, again, trade-offs. Last one would be hybrid. So that'd be like, you have multiples of everything we just talked about. So maybe you have a membership and high ticket, or you have a course and a membership, or you have a course and one-on-one or whatever, right? Yeah, time is precious with 2 kiddos for sure. The question I always ask clients with hybrid is just like, do you need more capacity? You know, like hybrid makes sense when you're like, okay, you know, I love having a high ticket mastermind, but I'm totally capped out there. What else can we open? Or, you know, I've loved doing one-on-one, but like, I know I have like a really, really, really strong audience that would be ready to buy a course or something like that. I think too many people jump to hybrid too early in their business because they see that that's what a lot of people that they deem very successful are doing. And it kills them because they have so much capacity open. They're like, you could be in my course, or you could be in my membership, or you could be in my mastermind, or you could be in my one-on-one. And they're not filling any of it. It's just like capacity everywhere. And so I think that's really important to say, is that you don't ideally want to move, in my opinion, to a hybrid too soon. You want to move when capacity is your desire, opening more capacity is your desire. Because if you do it too soon, a lot, like you could have a lot of half full things and feel quite frustrated at that and quite burnt out because you're delivering on all of the like half full things. And trying to market all of those together is really hard too. So it's like, from a marketing perspective, you still want like, what's your like golden goose kind of thing. And so you might have a hybrid where you have like I can think of a client that has this. She has like a high ticket mastermind, but she rarely markets it, like because of her other stuff, it kind of fills. And so it doesn't take up all this marketing space on her calendar. If it did, that would be a problem because she doesn't have the space in her marketing calendar to sell 4 offers multiple times a year. She can funnel people into these entry level offers, and then that sort of fills itself, or she can market to the people already in there. So that's one of the reasons why you really don't want a hybrid and all this capacity if you aren't reasonably sure one of them is already full or will stay full, because it really does get wonky with marketing. And you're trying to be like, where does all this fit? I need to talk about all these things all the time. And that can be crazy making. But, you know, when you're at a certain point in your business where like, you know, you're great at the marketing and you're cultivating a lot of leads and you're capped out, like you want to still make that work for you. So a hybrid is a great option for a lot of people. Like in some ways, I almost feel like I have a hybrid because I have a Lit Up Life and Dateable. Like a Lit Up Life's been capped out for a while. It's nice to have Dateable as like a way people can come in and connect and work together. But I don't really have to market one-on-one a lot, you know, so I don't like, it never feels competing. You know, I'm never like, oh, I don't want to talk about Dateable because I'm supposed to be talking about one-on-one or whatever. Like, and that's kind of where you want to be in your business when you go hybrid, is you don't want to feel like now all of these offers are their own competition with each other in your business, you know? And I think this really works like when you're at a certain stage of business. I think this is like a little bit less like pick this one from the start. And this is more like, in my opinion, one that it would be best to like grow into and evolve into. But again, I think it can be so confusing because it's like we see the people that we look up to or see as really successful having this. And so our brain says, well, just replicate that. I really love so-and-so. She's has such a successful business. She's making millions, blah, blah, blah. And she, you know, whatever, has 2 masterminds and a course. So I'm going to build 2 masterminds and a course. Like it's confusing, you know, but realistically, I would almost guarantee you, whoever you're looking up to probably built that over time. And part of the reason they have success is probably because they built that over time. So just a reminder on that, it almost always makes sense to have it streamlined and simplified. If you're building something where you're going to have multiple offers, you know, you need to market all of them, you know, on the front end all the time, like you're setting yourself up to feel more overwhelmed or frustrated than you probably need to. So benefit is once you get to that point, it can really add to your income and it can really scale you. Trade-off is obviously you're just managing a lot more and you're managing a lot more of how the parts fit together, which is another reason to wait. Because in my opinion, you want to have a hybrid when you have a team, right? Like you don't want to be like managing your one-on-one clients and your membership and your whatever. Like hybrid works best when you have a team to help you with all the puzzle pieces and logistics of that, because it is just more. It's just more holding. It's just more space. Like I can think of one of my clients, she has a course and she has 2 masterminds. Like, I mean, she could have like 150 clients at any one time or something like that, right? I can think of another client who had a mastermind of like 30 people and would sell, you know, sometimes 100, 200 spots in a course. Like you have 130 plus clients at that time, you know, it gets big. And so if you don't have a great infrastructure or team to support that, ultimately you could end up giving like not great client and customer service experiences, which is just going to hurt your business, not help it. So definitely stuff to think about there. I think that's kind of it. Like those were the main points. I can kind of recap the questions quickly if that's helpful. And then y'all let me know if you have any more questions. But for membership, the question would be, do you love creating? For high ticket, the question would be, do you love holding space and going deep? For course product, it would, or affiliate, Michelle said too, do you love marketing, right? Do you want to spend your time marketing? For hybrid, do you need to open more capacity? So think about it like that when you're thinking about what makes sense for me, what do I want to pick, what's my next move? And when you think about it like that, I think what is helpful is even if you're like, well, Lace, like I'm listening, but I kind of already know my business model, good. Hopefully this reinforced for you that it was the right one because you can easily answer no to those. You know what I mean? Like when I go through those and I'm like, do I want to market full time? No. Do I want to create all the time? No. Like it just reinforces for me always that I like made the right decision and what feels best to me for a lit up life in this season. And I love that. You know, it doesn't mean I can never change my mind. And then I would still be led by those questions. But even if it just reinforces for you that you're like already on the right track, I think that's so helpful. Um, you're welcome. Thank you. I have a copywriting client with an 8-figure biz with 1 course, but she is amazing at marketing her course. Like that is all she does. She is a master marketer and content creator, 100%. Like nail on head, Lauren, right? And it's so cool to watch those people in their elements. Like, oh my God, you were made for this. One of my clients is like that. When she came to me, she was actually still had a bit more of like a high ticket model, and we've really transitioned her to a course model over the last year. And it's just so cool to watch her thrive in that. Like, I'm like, oh my God, she was made for this, right? Like high ticket was working for her. There's nothing wrong with it, but like she is in her zone when she's just like, I'm a master marketer and content creator. So we think like making that right is so helpful too. But it's like knowing like if that is not what you want to work on or embody, like that will be frustrating as fuck business model, you know? So yeah, I hope that was helpful. I feel like, yeah, in her zone, right? I feel like the more we can all just be transparent about this, the better. So hopefully this was just a bit of a transparent look at that. remember, any comment entered to win a product. And also remember to go watch, I keep saying watch, but it's like an article excerpt. Go read that article in my stories. It is so good. I love you all. I hope you have a happy Monday and a good rest of your week. And I will talk to you next week. Bye, guys.